A former casino floor manager just revealed the exact time windows when slot machines are statistically more likely to pay jackpots, and what she shared could completely change when you choose to visit the casino. Casinos have been tracking this data for years through internal shift reports, but they've never wanted players to know these patterns actually exist. Time window number 1, Tuesday through Thursday mornings, specifically between 9 a.m. and noon. According to internal casino data analyzed by former employees, this window shows a 23% increase in jackpot frequency compared to peak weekend hours. Here's why this happens. During these midweek morning hours, player traffic drops to its lowest point. The machines have been sitting through slow overnight periods, which means progressive jackpot pools have been accumulating without significant play. A former floor manager named Rebecca worked at a major Las Vegas strip casino for 3 years, and she noticed something fascinating in the payout reports she filed every shift. Tuesday and Wednesday mornings consistently showed disproportionate jackpot hits relative to the number of players on the floor. Yet the math didn't make sense until she understood the cycle. Machines earlier in their programming cycles, combined with swollen progressive pools and minimal competition for those payouts, created a statistical advantage that most players never noticed because they simply weren't there during those hours. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Casinos deliberately stay quiet about these patterns because midweek mornings are already their slowest revenue periods. The last thing they want is to concentrate their player base into windows when operational costs are highest. Documentation from shift reports shows this pattern holding across multiple properties. There's a documented case of a player who spent years coming to the casino every Saturday night, grinding away on the same machines with minimal success. So, after a floor supervisor mentioned something about Tuesday mornings in passing, he switched his schedule. 4 months later, he hit a $47,000 jackpot on a Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. He'd been playing the same game, the same bet amounts, the same strategy. The only variable that changed was when he walked through those casino doors. And if you think that timing pattern is interesting, wait until you hear about this specific calendar pattern that former slot directors have confirmed. Time window number 2, the last 3 to 4 days of every month. According to former casino executives, this window exists because of how the industry tracks performance metrics. Casinos operate on monthly revenue targets set by corporate management, and former floor managers report that these targets create pressure that changes how the casino floor operates during those final days. When a property is trending below its monthly hold percentage goal, which is tracked obsessively by upper management, floor supervisors receive directives to run more aggressive promotional campaigns and, according to internal documentation, strategically position machines with higher payout potential in premium locations. But a former slot director at an Atlantic City casino revealed that end-of-month promotional spending could increase by 30 to 40%, specifically to drive player traffic and create visible winners on the floor. The goal wasn't just to meet revenue targets, but to generate momentum heading into the new month. This creates a documented window where jackpot frequency increases relative to normal operating periods. But here's what makes this pattern particularly reliable. A player named Marcus became obsessed with tracking every detail of his casino visits over an 18-month period. He logged dates, times, machines played, amounts wagered, and results. When he finally analyzed his spreadsheet, he discovered something that shocked him. 41% of his wins over $1,000 occurred during the last 4 days of the month, even though those days represented only 13% of his total casino visits. He thought it was a coincidence until he started comparing notes with other regular players and found they'd noticed similar patterns. The statistical clustering was too significant to ignore. But here's where it gets really interesting. Time window number 3 covers major convention and event weekends, and this is when former casino hosts reveal they personally choose to play if they're gambling on their own time. The technical explanation comes down to casino psychology and operational strategy. When a property knows it's going to see massive crowds because of conventions like CES in Las Vegas, Super Bowl weekend, or New Year's Eve, management makes a calculated decision to create what they call a winner atmosphere. According to former employees, jackpot frequency can increase by 18 to 27% during these high-traffic weekends compared to regular weekend periods. The logic is straightforward. More visible winners create more excitement, which sustains play across larger crowds for longer periods. While documentation from a former MGM employee includes internal memos that specifically reference promotional payout targets during major event weekends. The casino views these increased payouts as marketing investments rather than losses. They're buying sustained engagement from crowds that are already predisposed to gamble. There's a documented case of a couple who deliberately planned their casino visits around March Madness weekend for 3 consecutive years. On their third visit, they hit a $31,000 jackpot. They'd been playing the same machines at the same casino during regular weekends for years before they recognized this pattern and adjusted their timing. Before I tell you about the next time window, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to this channel and let me know in the comments whether you've ever noticed that certain times seem luckier than others, because what I'm about to tell you next might be the most important timing pattern of all. Time window number 4 involves something most players never even think about: the hours immediately following slot machine maintenance or software updates. Former slot technicians reveal that machines often run what they call test cycles after maintenance work. And the programming reality is that fresh RNG cycles, cleared error logs, and recalibrated payout percentages can create temporary volatility. According to technical documentation reviewed by former employees, machines can show measurably different behavior patterns in their first 50 to 100 spins following maintenance work. This maintenance typically happens between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., when floor traffic is at its absolute minimum, or immediately after you see technicians working on specific machines during operating hours. And the pattern is reliable enough that one player actually befriended the maintenance crew at his local casino and learned their regular service schedule. He started timing his visits to play machines within an hour of technician service, focusing specifically on games he'd seen roped off earlier in the week. Over a 14-month period, he won $19,000, and he attributes his success entirely to post-maintenance timing. You can spot these opportunities by watching for out-of-order signs that have recently been removed, technician carts positioned near certain machine banks, or games that were roped off during your last visit but are now back in service. But wait until you hear about this specific day of the week that changes everything. Time window number 5. Sunday, late nights, specifically between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., and this is when former pit bosses say they'd personally choose to gamble if they were playing with their own money. Here's the technical explanation for why this window exists. Weekend players have been feeding machines for 48 straight hours by the time Sunday night arrives, which means progressive jackpots have swollen to their weekly peaks, and base game cycles have absorbed sustained play across the entire floor. The psychological setup works in your favor because casinos know that fewer players during these hours means reduced probability that someone actually hits those accumulated pools, so floor managers don't tighten machines as aggressively as they do during peak Saturday night crowds. An industry insiders report that Sunday late night produces a disproportionate number of jackpots relative to actual player volume on the floor. The statistical advantage comes from a combination of accumulated weekend play, reduced player competition, and what former employees describe as casino complacency during these win-down hours. But here's the programming detail that makes this pattern particularly reliable. Many casino properties run their weekly payout cycle resets Monday morning as part of standard system maintenance, which makes Sunday night effectively the end of the cycle when machines have absorbed maximum play without corresponding payouts. A former Harrah's employee kept personal documentation of floor patterns over a 7-month period, and her records showed Sunday nights between 10 p.m. and midnight consistently produced jackpot frequencies that exceeded statistical probability models. There's a documented case of a woman named Patricia who exclusively played Sunday night sessions for over a year, deliberately avoiding Friday and Saturday crowds. During those 14 months, she hit 4 separate jackpots exceeding $10,000 each. She played the same total hours per month as regular players, but concentrated all her casino time into this specific window. Here's the dark secret that former floor managers eventually revealed to her. Casinos actually prefer when someone hits a jackpot Sunday night rather than during Monday afternoon dead periods, because a Sunday night winner creates buzz and excitement heading into the new week, while a Monday afternoon jackpot happens when almost no one is around to witness it and generate secondary play. And speaking of weekly patterns that former employees have confirmed, time window number 6 focuses on the first full week following major holidays, specifically the 7 days after Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, and other peak holiday periods. This one shocked me when a former casino director first explained the mechanism. Casinos deliberately over-tighten their machines during major holidays to maximize profit from tourist crowds who are one-time visitors unlikely to return. But then they rebalance settings during the following week when their player base shifts back to local regulars who represent long-term revenue value. According to former slot managers, machines can run 2 to 4% higher RTP during post-holiday weeks compared to the holiday periods themselves. And the programming reality involves corporate directives sent to floor operations teams, instructing them to adjust machine settings based on anticipated player demographic shifts. A former Caesars employee provided documentation that included internal emails specifically referencing post-holiday recalibration schedules. These adjustments aren't random, they're calculated responses to player type and expected return visit probability. There's a documented case of a regular player named Dennis who maintained meticulous records over 3 years of casino play. When he finally analyzed his data, he discovered that 65% of his jackpots over $5,000 occurred during post-holiday weeks, even though those weeks represented only 18% of his total visits. And the pattern was so pronounced that he restructured his entire gambling schedule around it. But here's why casinos desperately want to hide this pattern. They can't afford to discourage holiday play, which represents their highest volume revenue periods of the entire year. If players knew machines were systematically tighter during holidays, it would devastate their most profitable operational windows. But here's where this timing information gets really interesting, because the next 2 windows reveal something even more specific about how casino operations actually function behind the scenes. Time window number 7, graveyard shift during weekdays, specifically between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and multiple former casino managers independently confirmed this exact window without any prompting. The setup is crucial to understand. These hours represent the absolute lowest player traffic of the entire weekly cycle, which means the highest staff-to-player ratio on the floor and a completely different operational mentality among management. According to former employees, graveyard shift floor managers operate under different performance metrics than their day and evening counterparts. While primetime managers focus almost exclusively on maximizing revenue per hour, overnight supervisors receive directives emphasizing player satisfaction and retention because their players are predominantly local regulars rather than tourists. These regulars represent long-term value that corporate management tracks differently. The insider secret that former managers revealed is that overnight, supervisors often receive explicit permission to slightly loosen select machines, specifically to keep these valuable repeat customers engaged and happy. Based on internal shift reports analyzed by former employees, graveyard shifts see 31% fewer players than evening shifts, but only 18% fewer jackpots, which creates a statistical disproportion that's impossible to ignore. Well, the programming detail that makes this pattern even more reliable is that many casino properties run comprehensive system maintenance between 4 and 6 a.m., which creates the exact post-maintenance advantage we discussed earlier. A former Mohegan Sun manager revealed that his property deliberately designated 5 to 7 machines as overnight hotspots, rotating them weekly to create unpredictability while maintaining the overall pattern. There's a documented case of an Uber driver named James who realized he could play slots between passenger fares during his overnight shifts. He focused exclusively on the 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. window at his local casino, and over a 2-year period he accumulated $52,000 in jackpots. The psychological factor works in your favor, because less crowded floors mean less pressure, fewer distractions, and better decision-making without the chaos of primetime crowds. But here's the crucial qualifier that former managers emphasized. This pattern holds specifically for regular weeknights, not Friday and Saturday overnight hours, which attract a completely different crowd and trigger different casino operational strategies. Now, this next timing window is so specific that most players never even think about it, but former slot directors say it's one of the most predictable patterns in the entire industry. Time window number 8. Within 72 hours after a casino opens a new machine section or debuts new slot models on their floor. The technical explanation comes down to pure marketing strategy. When casinos invest millions of dollars into new gaming sections, they need immediate return on that investment through player traffic and engagement. According to former slot directors, new machines are deliberately programmed to pay more frequently during their first 72 to 96 hours of operation. A former slot operations director stated explicitly that his property ran new machines at 2 to 3% higher RTP for the first week specifically to generate immediate winners, create buzz, and attract crowds to the new section. The documentation exists in internal promotional strategies from multiple casino chains that outline these temporary setting adjustments as standard practice. After the initial promotional period ends and the buzz is established, settings gradually adjust back to standard house advantage levels. You can spot these opportunities by watching for grand opening banners, promotional signage, and staff members stationed near new machine banks to explain game features and encourage trial play. There's a specific example of a player who began systematically tracking new machine openings at her local casino by following their social media accounts and email promotions. She made it a point to visit within the first 3 days of any new section opening, and she won $28,000 during one of those opening periods. And here's the cruel irony that former employees revealed. After that first week, those same heavily promoted machines often become tighter than the existing floor average because the casino needs to recover their promotional investment. A woman named Lisa turned this pattern into a deliberate strategy, traveling to different regional casinos specifically during their new game debut weekends. But we're just getting to the most important timing patterns, because what comes next reveals something about casino psychology that most players never fully understand. Time window number 9. 15 to 30 minutes before major advertised jackpot drawing times, and former casino hosts say this is the single most predictable pattern in the entire industry. Properties that run hourly or nightly jackpot drawings and promotional giveaways create a fascinating operational dynamic that works entirely in your favor if you understand the psychology. Player behavior becomes completely predictable during these windows because people arrive early for drawings and immediately start playing while they wait. Casino management knows this pattern intimately, and according to a former operations manager who worked at 3 different regional properties, floor supervisors would literally adjust machine settings 20 minutes before major drawing times like the 8 p.m. nightly jackpot. The programming reality that former employees revealed is that modern centralized casino management systems allow real-time adjustments to entire machine pools with just a few clicks. Statistical backing comes from documented cases showing that the 30-minute window immediately preceding advertised drawings produces 22% higher jackpot frequency compared to the 30 minutes following those same drawings. The strategy makes perfect business sense when you understand casino psychology. They want you to stay after the drawing concludes, and if you're already winning during the pre-drawing period, you're far more likely to remain on the floor and continue playing. There's a specific example of a player who arrived exactly 30 minutes early for his local casino's weekly Friday night drawing for 6 consecutive months. But during that period, he won 7 separate jackpots exceeding $5,000 each, and every single one of those wins occurred before the actual drawing time. But here's the psychological trap that former casino hosts warn about. That pre-drawing hot period creates a devastating false sense of momentum. You win during those crucial 30 minutes, you stay for the drawing itself, and then you continue playing during the post-drawing period when machines have been retightened to their standard settings. A man named Robert recognized this exact pattern after tracking his results over 4 months. He developed a strict personal rule: arrive 30 minutes before the drawing, play during that window, collect his drawing entry, and leave immediately after the drawing concluded regardless of whether he won the promotional prize. And his discipline paid off because he avoided the post-drawing trap that catches most players. Now, this final timing window isn't about casino scheduling at all. It's about your personal timing. And former casino psychologists say this might be the most important pattern on this entire list. Time window number 10. The first 90 minutes of your casino visit, regardless of what day or time you actually arrive. Former casino host managers and gambling psychology consultants reveal that both first-time visitors and returning players demonstrate measurably higher win rates during their first 90 minutes on the property, and the explanation has nothing to do with machine settings. Industry data analyzed by former employees shows that players win 67% of their session jackpots during the first third of their total casino visit time. The technical explanation is pure psychology and physiology. You're fresh, alert, making better decisions, following your predetermined budget, and not yet chasing losses or making emotional bets. But here's where casino strategy becomes truly insidious. A former slot host revealed that properties deliberately offer free alcoholic drinks after players have been on the floor for 60 to 90 minutes because internal data shows that's exactly when decision-making ability begins to degrade and players become significantly more profitable. You're not just playing against machine programming, you're playing against the programming of your own psychology, and casinos have spent billions of dollars studying exactly when you become most vulnerable. A study tracking 1,000 players over 6 months found that the average time of significant wins was 73 minutes into their casino visit. A former gambling counselor who interviewed hundreds of big winners over a 10-year period discovered that 92% of them won during their first 2 hours on the property. That one more spin mentality that kicks in after you've been playing for multiple hours is precisely what casino profit models depend on. The dark truth that former employees shared is that extended playtime almost guarantees casino profit, regardless of what timing windows you choose or which machines you select. So now that you understand these 10 timing windows that former casino employees have confirmed through internal documentation and shift reports, here's what you absolutely need to understand about the reality of this information. These timing patterns are statistically real based on insider reports and documented operational practices. But no timing strategy guarantees wins because the house always maintains its mathematical edge. John, a former casino executive who worked at the corporate level for 15 years, stated it perfectly. We knew about these patterns. We discussed them in management meetings, but the math still favored us overall regardless of when players chose to visit. The truth is that optimal timing might shift your effective return to player percentage from 88% to 91%, which is meaningful over thousands of spins, but not transformative for individual sessions. Casinos don't actually care if you know this information, because even perfectly optimized timing doesn't overcome the fundamental house advantage that's built into every single machine on their floor. The psychological danger that former gambling counselors warn about is that thinking you've cracked some secret code can lead to overconfidence, larger bets, and ultimately bigger losses than you would have experienced with more cautious play. But here's how you actually use this information if you're going to gamble anyway. The practical framework involves combining multiple timing windows to maximize whatever statistical advantage exists. For example, playing on a Tuesday morning during the last week of the month immediately after you've noticed maintenance work on your preferred machines creates a convergence of 3 separate advantageous patterns. A former regular player who systematically applied these timing principles over a 2-year period won 43% more frequently than statistical averages would predict. But he also maintained strict loss limits and walked away after 90 minutes regardless of whether he was winning or losing. The smart approach that former casino hosts recommend is using timing knowledge to maximize your entertainment value and minimize your losses rather than trying to beat the casino, which remains mathematically impossible over any significant period of play. If you're going to gamble anyway, choosing Tuesday at 10 a.m. instead of Saturday at 8 p.m. gives you measurably better conditions, even though neither time guarantees profit. Budget discipline matters more than timing. And even with optimal scheduling, you must set strict loss limits before you walk through those doors. Former employees suggest tracking your own results across at least 30 different sessions, spanning multiple timing windows before drawing any conclusions, because individual variants can create false patterns that don't hold up over larger sample sizes. But here's one more thing that former casino employees revealed that should concern every player who uses this timing information. Casinos are increasingly implementing artificial intelligence and dynamic pricing models similar to what airlines use for ticket pricing, and what this means for timing patterns is potentially devastating. Machine settings may soon adjust in real time based on current player count, time of day, and even individual player profiles linked to loyalty card data. A former IT director at a major casino technology company revealed that multiple casino chains are already testing systems that deliver personalized return-to-player percentages based on tracked player behavior and loss tolerance. The future of casino gaming might make these timing patterns completely obsolete as machines become smart enough to optimize house advantage on a player-by-player basis. The urgency is real. Use this information now while human scheduling patterns and operational routines still influence machine settings, because that window may be closing faster than anyone outside the industry realizes. You deserve to know how the game actually works, even if that knowledge doesn't fundamentally change the mathematical reality that casinos win and players lose over time. Subscribe for more insider casino information that properties don't want you knowing, and let me know in the comments which time window surprised you most, or whether you've noticed any patterns yourself during your own casino visits. Share your experiences, because we're building a database of player observations that might reveal even more patterns the industry wants to keep hidden. The next video will reveal the specific machines that pay most frequently during these exact time windows, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that information. Stay informed, play smart, and remember that the house always has an edge, but knowledge gives you the best chance of walking out ahead.